Okay, deep breath. Because if you're a Browns fan or just someone with functioning eyeballs and a shred of football common sense, you probably need a minute. You just watched Shedeur Sanders put on a performance that should have defined a season, and somehow it turned into another entry in the Cleveland Browns book of wasted talent. 364 passing yards. 3 touchdowns through the air. 1 on the ground. An 80-yard drive that looked like it came straight out of a movie script.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
He was in control. Composed. Dicing up the defense with surgical precision. This wasn't potential. This was arrival. This was the moment. And then Kevin Stefanski walked in like a guy who just woke up from a nap and decided to call plays like he was spinning a wheel of bad ideas. Wildcat formation? In the red zone? A backwards pitch on 3rd and short when Shedeur was in the zone? This man looked at a Maserati in the fast lane and said, "Let's pull over and switch to a tricycle." You cannot make this up. Now, before we go any further, let's get something straight. This isn't just about one game. It's not just one decision. This is about a pattern, a consistent, frustrating, mind-melting pattern of mismanagement. A slow-motion sabotage. And Shedeur Sanders is the latest victim. Remember when people said the Browns were cursed? Maybe the curse isn't supernatural. Maybe it's just a leadership problem. Because what Stefanski is doing isn't just poor coaching, it's anti-development. He's actively taking a young quarterback, the most promising one the franchise has seen in years, decades really, and putting him in positions that make it harder to succeed. Not just once. Not just by accident. Repeatedly. Systematically. Like he's allergic to letting Shedeur shine. It's like watching someone light a match in the dark and then immediately blow it out because they're afraid of fire. The irony? Stefanski was supposed to be the guy who could develop quarterbacks. That was the whole pitch. The offensive-minded head coach. The play caller. The guy with a plan. But now, that plan looks more like a glorified guessing game. A game where the stakes are Shedeur's confidence, the locker room's trust, and the fanbase's last few strands of hope. And let's talk about that fanbase, shall we? These aren't casual fans. These are generational survivors. People who've stuck by this team through 0 to 16, through Johnny Manziel chaos, through draft day heartbreaks and quarterback jersey graveyards. These are people who've earned the right to finally believe in something real. And when they see Shedeur Sanders take the field and play like that, they feel it. The belief. The spark. Maybe this time is different. Only to have their coach slap a piece of duct tape over their mouths and whisper, "Not yet." It's insulting. And speaking of insult, let's not forget the NFL draft situation. The fact that Shedeur wasn't the number 1 pick? That's its own crime. But okay, fine. He falls to the Browns. Redemption arc unlocked. But what happens next? He gets stuck in a system that treats him like a gadget instead of a game changer. He gets yanked off the field mid-drive for bizarre packages. He gets blamed for drives that stalled because of bad play calling, not bad execution. Meanwhile, Cam Ward, who had all the media buzz, is out here throwing ducks in garbage time, while Shedeur is putting up legit QB1 numbers under pressure. No gimmicks. No training wheels. And yet, he's the one who gets sidelined? Make it make sense. Actually, no, don't make it make sense. Because it doesn't. And that's the whole point. This isn't about logic. It's about control. Stefanski is coaching like a man who's terrified of letting go. Like if Shedeur gets too hot, too confident, too clearly the leader of this team, it'll shift the power dynamic. Spoiler alert, it already has. Because you can't watch this team and not know who the heart is. It's Shedeur. Full stop. And the longer Stefanski tries to pretend otherwise, the more he reveals just how out of touch he is with his own locker room. Let's get brutally honest. Stefanski is not coaching to win anymore. He's coaching to prove himself right. And when a coach crosses that line, when protecting his ego becomes more important than empowering his players, that's when the team suffers. That's when you start losing not just games but the future. And this franchise cannot afford that. We are not going to watch Shedeur Sanders become another cautionary tale. Not when he's this good. Not when he's shown this much poise, talent, and leadership in the face of chaos. He's not the problem. He's the solution. But you'd never know it from the way Stefanski calls games. You'd think Shedeur was a liability the way they keep taking the ball out of his hands in crucial moments. You'd think he was the backup QB from a practice squad instead of the literal star of the show. And you know what? That kind of treatment doesn't go unnoticed. Not by fans. Not by teammates. And definitely not by Shedeur himself. He's too composed to say it, too classy. But you can see it on his face. That look of disbelief. That flicker of, why am I being pulled right now? That quiet rage that comes from doing everything right and still being treated like a side piece to the playbook. That doesn't go away. And if this keeps up, the damage won't just be psychological. It'll be structural. Because how do you build around a quarterback when the head coach refuses to believe in him? You can't. This is bigger than one loss. Bigger than one bad call. This is a leadership crisis. The kind that derails seasons and ruins potential. So let's cut through the noise and say what everyone's thinking. Kevin Stefanski has to go. Not at the end of the season. No. Rip off the Band-Aid. Send a message. Not just to the fans, but to the players. To Shedeur. Show them you're serious. Show them this team is no longer in the business of wasting talent. Show them that when someone proves they're ready to lead, you don't pull them, you follow them. And don't let anyone tell you this would be rash or emotional. What's emotional is letting your best player be sabotaged by outdated schemes and timid leadership. What's rash is not making a change while there's still time to salvage this season. Because the clock is ticking. Every week Shedeur spends in this broken system is a week of progress lost. Every drive he's benched for a wildcat package is a missed opportunity to build rhythm, chemistry, identity. And every game where the Browns lose in spite of elite quarterback play is another nail in the coffin of what could have been a franchise revival. It doesn't have to be this way. This team can still be saved. The pieces are there. The talent is real. The fans are still showing up. All they need now is leadership. Not fear. Not ego. Leadership. And that starts with recognizing when your head coach is no longer the answer. So Jimmy Haslam, if you're watching, and you should be, this is your moment. This is your legacy. Don't be the guy who stood by while another star was wasted. Be the guy who saw the truth, made the call, and turned the ship around. Fire Stefanski. Free Shedeur. And give Cleveland the future it deserves. Because the only thing worse than never having a franchise quarterback is having one and letting him slip away. Let's talk about the reality that's been punching Cleveland fans in the face for weeks now, and somehow no one at the top seems to be reacting. Because if you watched that game, if you saw Shedeur Sanders turn into an on-field magician right in front of your eyes, only to be benched, neutralized, and undermined by his own coach, then you know exactly what this is. It's not just bad coaching. It's not just a string of bad calls. It's sabotage. Kevin Stefanski is sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. And not in some vague, metaphorical sense. This is concrete. This is happening in real time, with millions of fans watching a generational talent get smothered under layers of ego, caution, and downright delusion. And listen, this isn't just about losing a game. Cleveland's lost plenty of games. We've lived through losses. We've survived 0-16. We've stared into the abyss and the abyss said, hey, at least you're not the Jets. But this is different. Because this time we have the guy. We have the guy. Shedeur Sanders is the kind of quarterback you build statues for. The kind who changes locker rooms. Changes expectations. Changes outcomes. And Stefanski is acting like he's just another plug-and-play variable in a spreadsheet offense. Let's rewind for a moment. Just so we're clear on how absurd this has gotten. Shedeur throws for 364 yards. He accounts for 4 touchdowns. He leads a cold-blooded, no-blink 80-yard drive that had the entire fanbase holding their breath like they were watching a classic LeBron comeback. It was beautiful. It was textbook. It was everything you want from a franchise quarterback. And then, what does Kevin Stefanski do? He takes the ball out of Shedeur's hands. Starts running wildcat plays like it's 2009. Draws up a 2-point conversion that looked like it was pulled out of a Cracker Jack box. And the offense? Predictably stalls. You could feel the momentum shatter like glass. And the wildest part? It wasn't even shocking. Because we've seen it before. Over and over again. Every time Shedeur starts heating up, every time it looks like he's about to take over a game, something happens. A sideline decision. A weird substitution. A momentum-killing gimmick play. Why does this keep happening? Because Kevin Stefanski is coaching like a man stuck in 2020. Still trying to make his precious system work, even when the most important piece of that system, the quarterback, has evolved way past it. Shedeur isn't here to fit into some rigid, balanced offense that relies on run-first schemes and predictable play action. He's here to lead, to improvise, to dominate, and Stefanski won't let him. It's not even about results at this point, it's about control. You can see it. Stefanski is more interested in protecting his vision of the game than adapting to what's actually working. And what's working? Shedeur Sanders unleashed. But that version of Shedeur? The one we saw in the second and third quarters? That version doesn't fit in Stefanski's precious script. That version forces change. That version takes over. And Stefanski? He can't handle that. It's maddening, truly. Because we're not talking about a rookie QB throwing picks all over the place. We're not talking about a guy who needs to be slowly developed, spoon-fed, protected. No. We're talking about a player who's already shown he can make reads at NFL speed. A player who escapes pressure like he's got eyes in the back of his head. A player who throws with touch, velocity, and timing. We're talking about a quarterback who just outperformed every other young passer in the league this weekend, and still couldn't get the green light to finish the game. Why? Because Kevin Stefanski is addicted to control. He doesn't want a quarterback, he wants a puppet. But Shedeur? He's not built for strings. He's built to lead. Built to make the throw that nobody else sees. Built to take a broken play and turn it into a 20-yard gain. Built to run this franchise, if someone would just have the guts to hand him the keys. Instead, he's stuck behind a coach who doesn't see the gift sitting right in front of him. And let's be real for a second, what does this do to a player? How many games can you play like a star, only to be treated like a placeholder? How long before that starts to sink in? You're putting up numbers, making the right reads, getting hit, getting up, rallying your team, doing everything right, and then you're watching from the sideline while your coach installs some razzle-dazzle garbage that loses 5 yards on 3rd and 2? That's not just frustrating, it's demoralizing. You think Shedeur doesn't feel that? You think the locker room doesn't see that? You think the receivers who've been working with Shedeur all week don't notice when their rhythm gets thrown off for the 3rd time in a game because the coach can't help but outsmart himself? This is how you lose a team. And if you think this is an exaggeration, let's look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about Shedeur. It's about the whole operation. Special teams? A mess. Defense? Letting the Titans run wild like it's Derrick Henry's comeback tour. Game management? Sloppy. Conservative when it should be aggressive. Passive when it should be calculated. This team looks like it's being coached scared. But Shedeur isn't scared. That's what makes this all so infuriating. You have a player who wants the spotlight. Who thrives when the game is on the line. And Stefanski is out here dialing up scared football. You do not win scared. You do not build dynasties scared. And you absolutely do not unlock a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders by treating him like a backup. What you do is let him lead. You build around him. You throw out the parts of your system that don't serve him, and you replace them with whatever keeps the ball in his hands. Because he's the truth. He's the guy. You don't find players like this often. You don't luck into a quarterback who already looks like a 10-year vet before he's even had time to memorize all the play calls. But Stefanski doesn't see it. Or worse, he does see it and refuses to acknowledge it because it means adapting. And that brings us to the hard part. The uncomfortable truth. The part nobody really wants to say out loud but everyone's thinking. It's time to fire Kevin Stefanski. Yes. Mid-season. Yes. With the offense finally flashing something special. Because if you don't do it now, you're not just risking the season, you're risking Shedeur's development. His buy-in. His trajectory. And once that starts to slip, good luck getting it back. You think franchise quarterbacks grow on trees? You think there's a surplus of elite, field-reading, laser-armed leaders just waiting to be picked up? There isn't. And Cleveland finally has one. And Kevin Stefanski is wasting him. So yeah, it's time. Jimmy Haslam, this is your call. You want to be remembered as the owner who finally turned the Browns around? Who finally stopped the revolving door of failure? Then make the move. Get Stefanski out. Bring in someone who sees Shedeur. Who believes in him. Who doesn't get in his way when the kid's cooking. This team has a shot. This city has hope. But not if the man in charge keeps pulling the plug every time the lights start to come on. Fire Stefanski. Save Shedeur. And save this team from repeating history, again. Shedeur Sanders isn't just having promising rookie flashes. He's not just a spark. He's a full-on fire. And yet, the Browns keep acting like he's a risk to be managed instead of the future to be embraced. And that starts with one man. One stubborn, system-obsessed, control-freak coach who seems more committed to being right than being smart. Kevin Stefanski. The man is so deep in his own head he might need a search party to find his way out. This is not coaching. This is chessmaster cosplay. He's out here trying to play some 5D version of football while the rest of us are screaming, just let the kid throw the ball. It's like Stefanski can't help himself. You give him a beautiful offensive rhythm, a quarterback who's reading defenses like he's a 10-year vet, and what does he do? He dials up a jet sweep on 3rd and 1. He benches Shedeur for a wildcat that crashes harder than a Netflix show after season 2. He runs the kind of two-point conversion that makes fans immediately search for the offensive coordinator's LinkedIn. It's not strategy, it's sabotage wrapped in a headset. And what's worse, he acts like nothing's wrong. Post-game, it's the same robotic press conference. We like the look. We'll go back to the tape. That one's on me. You know what, Kevin? You're right. It is on you. And it has been. Again. And again. And again. This isn't just frustrating. It's unforgivable. Because this isn't a rebuilding year. This isn't some placeholder roster hoping to tread water. This is a team with legitimate talent. A city starving for wins. And most importantly, a quarterback who has everything you need to change the trajectory of the franchise. Let's talk about Shedeur again. Because the fact that this man has been so composed, so professional, in the middle of this dumpster fire is honestly remarkable. He's out there dodging defensive linemen, reading blitzes, extending plays with his legs, and delivering darts under pressure. All while being coached like he's the emergency backup. And you know he knows it. You can see it. That sideline body language? It's not just frustration, it's confusion. Like he's wondering what game his coach is watching. And the answer? Stefanski's watching a different game. He's watching one that exists in his head, one where play sheets matter more than instincts, and where gut feelings are a threat to structure. It's clinical, it's cold, and it's killing the energy of this team. We talk a lot about locker room culture. And right now, this one's hanging by a thread. Because what happens when your best player keeps getting undermined? What message does that send? It tells everyone, receivers, linemen, running backs, that excellence isn't rewarded. That even if your quarterback plays out of his mind, he still might get sidelined for a gimmick play. That your coach trusts the system more than he trusts you. And that's how locker rooms turn sour. That's how belief evaporates. One weird decision at a time. Look, no one is saying coaching is easy. It's not. But this isn't about difficulty. It's about vision. It's about leadership. It's about knowing what you have, and not letting it rot while you chase imaginary balance on a play chart. Shedeur Sanders is not a prospect anymore. He's not a question mark. He's an answer. A real one. A franchise quarterback in the making. Every snap he plays confirms it. Every comeback drive, every third down conversion, every perfectly placed sideline pass. And what does Stefanski do with that? He tries to control it. Tame it. Contain it. Newsflash, you don't contain greatness. You build around it. You feed it. You protect it. You believe in it. But Stefanski? He's coaching like Shedeur's a liability. Like the guy with 4 total touchdowns and nearly 400 yards is some kind of ticking time bomb. It's like watching someone adopt a lion and then try to teach it how to purr. And here's the cold reality that nobody wants to say out loud. If this continues, Shedeur won't stick around. Oh, he'll be under contract, sure. But mentally? Emotionally? You think he's going to go into every Sunday knowing that no matter how well he plays, he might still be yanked for a gimmick formation? You think he's going to trust the process when the process keeps treating him like a temporary solution? No. That's how you lose stars. Not to free agency but to disillusionment. And once that belief is gone, it doesn't come back. Not really. So here we are. A fan base begging for change. A quarterback silently pleading for trust. And a coach too stubborn to admit that his system is the problem. It's not just time to make a change, it's past time. This isn't emotional overreaction. This is logic. This is football reality. This is watching history repeat itself in real time and screaming, and oh, not again. We've seen what happens when you don't act. When you let bad leadership linger. You get wasted potential. You get locker room splits. You get losses that should have been wins. You get a highlight reel of what-ifs, instead of a playoff run. So Jimmy Haslam, hear it clearly because this might be the most important decision you make this decade. Fire Kevin Stefanski. Do it now. Before Shedeur loses faith. Before the team gives up. Before this season turns into another cautionary tale. Bring in someone who sees what we see. Someone who isn't afraid to put the ball in Shedeur's hands and say, go win us the game. Someone who understands that this isn't just another quarterback. This is the quarterback. The one you've been waiting for. Let him lead. Let him build. Let him thrive. Because Cleveland deserves better. Shedeur deserves better. Football deserves better. And the only thing standing in the way right now is Kevin Stefanski. So let's make it official. Rip the Band-Aid. Make the call. And finally, let the Browns become what they were meant to be. A team with a quarterback, a future, and a real shot. But only if you act. Before it's too late.